High atop a rugged cliff, where the sky met the edge of the earth, lived a solitary crow named Kaalu. His feathers were black as coal, his eyes sharp, and his voice raspy like the dry wind that swept through the canyons. While the cliff gave him safety and space, it also offered a clear view of the lush green forest below, a place bursting with life, color, and music. Every morning, Kaalu perched silently on a rock, watching the vibrant birds that danced in the forest canopy. Peacocks spread their brilliant feathers like living rainbows. Nightingales sang sweet melodies that made flowers sway, and parrots chattered cheerfully as they flitted from tree to tree. The forest below seemed like a magical world, a world Kaalu longed to belong to. But Kaalu was different. He didn't have shimmering feathers. His voice wasn't sweet, just a sharp caw that startled others. Even his flight was different, less graceful, more forceful. He often wondered, why did I have to be born like this? Why can't I be like them? The question settled in his heart like a heavy stone. Determined to change, Kaalu began to mimic the other birds. He plucked red petals and tucked them between his wings to look more colorful. He practiced hopping and twirling like the peacocks, though he stumbled more than he danced. He tried humming instead of cawing, but his voice cracked and croaked, sounding more like a broken flute than a melody. When he flew close to the forest one day, hoping someone might notice his efforts, 2 finches burst into giggles. "Look at that crow, trying to be a peacock! What a joke!" they chirped. Humiliated, Kaalu flew back to his lonely perch. He sat there, still and quiet, as the sky above darkened. Thunder growled softly in the distance. A cool wind blew, ruffling his fake flower feathers, scattering them into the sky. He watched as the other birds flew off together, disappearing into the trees where he didn't belong. His eyes burned, but no tears came, only a heavy silence in his heart. No matter what he did, he wasn't enough. Not bright enough, not musical enough, not graceful enough. As the first drop of rain hit the dry rock beside him, Kaalu whispered to himself, "Maybe I was never meant to shine." But what Kaalu didn't realize then was that the storm coming toward him, both outside and inside, was not meant to break him. It was meant to reveal him. Sometimes the sky must go dark before a light can truly be seen. Dark clouds rolled over the forest like an angry sea. The cheerful chirps of birds fell silent as the wind grew wilder, pulling at branches, shaking nests loose, and scattering leaves like frightened whispers. For the birds that lived in the comfort of the canopy, this storm was a terror they had never known. From his perch on the cliff, Kaalu stood firm. The wind howled around him, but he didn't flinch. The cold air, the swirling debris, the biting gusts. He had lived through all this before. The cliff had trained him, shaped him, made him strong. What had once felt like isolation had become endurance. Then he saw it. Down below in the open, a nest had toppled from a high branch and landed on a shaking bush. In it, 2 tiny sparrows, no more than fledglings, huddled together, soaked and terrified. Their wings were too weak to fly. Their cries barely rose above the wind. Nearby, their parents screamed helplessly from another branch, unable to fight the storm. Kaalu didn't hesitate. He spread his strong wings and leapt into the wind. The sky resisted him, shoving him backward, but he pushed forward. Rain slammed into his face. Branches whipped past. The air spun like a vortex, but Kaalu was steady, slicing through the chaos with every beat of his wings. He reached the bush, hovered for a moment, and carefully grabbed the edge of the nest with his talons. It was heavier than he expected, waterlogged and swaying wildly. The baby sparrows clung to each other, trembling. With a deep breath, Kaalu rose. The storm shrieked louder, as if trying to pull him back down. But Kaalu's wings were strong, shaped by countless hours flying through cliffside winds and updrafts. This was his element. Not beauty, not song, strength. He flew higher and higher, dodging falling branches and cutting through rain. The entire forest watched from below. No one had ever seen a crow fly like that. No one had ever needed to. Finally, he reached a large hollow in a tree, safe, dry, and high above the floodwaters. He placed the nest gently inside. The baby sparrows blinked up at him with awe. Their parents flew in seconds later, crying with joy and gratitude. Kaalu didn't wait for praise. He simply nodded and returned to the sky, flying back toward his cliff. But this time, he didn't feel alone. The cliff hadn't made him less. It had made him ready. And for the first time in his life, Kaalu didn't wish he was anyone else. He didn't wish for brighter feathers or a sweeter song. He had something far more powerful, courage forged in storms. As he landed back on his rocky ledge, the wind softened around him, almost like a quiet applause. Kaalu stood tall, his black feathers glistening in the rain, and in his chest a quiet fire began to glow. The morning after the storm dawned calm and golden. Dew clung to leaves like scattered jewels, and a soft mist floated over the forest floor. The once loud bird song was replaced by gentle rustling and quiet gratitude. Homes had been shaken, but lives had been saved, and among them, 2 tiny sparrows owed everything to a black crow from the cliff. Kaalu sat on his perch, wings tucked in, eyes scanning the horizon. He felt different. Not just stronger, but lighter. For the first time, he wasn't watching the forest with envy. He wasn't wishing for colors or charm. He was simply present, and it was enough. Suddenly, there was movement in the trees below. A group of birds, parrots, nightingales, even the peacocks, flew upward toward the cliff. It was rare for anyone to come this high, and rarer still to come looking for Kaalu. They landed with flutters and chirps of excitement, surrounding him in a circle of admiration. One of the parrots spoke first. "We saw what you did in the storm. No one else could have flown like that." A nightingale added, "Your strength saved those sparrows. You flew through the kind of wind that would tear our wings." Even the 2 sparrows from before approached nervously. "We're sorry we laughed at you," one whispered. "You're a hero." Kaalu blinked. All his life he had chased their approval by pretending to be something else. Now, standing as his true self, they saw him, truly saw him, for the first time. He nodded, unsure of what to say. "Will you speak at the gathering today?" asked the wise old owl, who'd come with them. "The forest is holding a celebration to honor the brave." Kaalu hesitated. His voice had always felt like his weakest trait, but something had changed. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. He stepped forward to the edge of the cliff, where all the forest creatures had gathered below, rabbits, squirrels, deer, and every kind of bird. They looked up in silence, waiting. Kaalu took a deep breath, and then he cawed. It wasn't a sweet trill or a musical hum. It was loud, rough, raw. It echoed through the trees like a crack of truth. For a moment, the forest was silent. Then, slowly, the silence turned into applause. Wings flapped, animals cheered, and a new sound rose. The sound of a crow's voice, respected, honored, and free. The owl smiled. Not all songs are sung in sweetness. Some are roared in truth. From that day on, Kaalu's voice became a symbol, not of mimicry, but of identity. Birds brought their young to meet him. Others asked him to teach them how to fly strong. And when storms returned, it was Kaalu they looked to. Not just to survive, but to lead. And Kaalu, he never wished to be like anyone else again, because he had learned the greatest truth of all. The storm had not changed him. It had revealed him.